Hi, everyone. So we are here today with Moms versus COVID-19. This is our fifth and final interview of the series with Beacon Parent Coaching. I am here today with Ashley. Good morning, Ashley.
Good morning.
So Ashley is here, and I'm so thankful that she's here. She has had a hard week, and she is going to be, originally she was participating in the interview because she was going to be sharing her story of being an expecting mom. Ashley is due with her first child in May, which is so exciting. But earlier this week, she lost a family member to COVID-19, and she is being brave enough to share that with us to help to educate people on the importance of doing their part and keeping people safe, even if you feel like your family yourself are strong enough to get through it. The importance of why we're social distancing and being considerate of other people who may not be directly related to us. So Ashley, why don't you start off just by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Ashley. I am about 35 and a half weeks pregnant. So I'm due the first week in May. It's getting really close. Mm-hmm. I live in Newton, New Hampshire with my husband and my two very large dogs. If you hear them barking in the background, I apologize. I am also a teacher. I teach at a charter school in Lawrence. I teach K1, so 4-year-olds. So our online learning has been interesting. We haven't attempted Zoom calls with them yet. So right now we're just posting videos and giving them some online resources and things. But so that's me.
Yeah, that must be a totally different dynamic with the little kids and what you're doing. So I'm sure they're appreciating all the resources that you're posting, but it's kind of makes it a different dynamic when they're younger and they can't really pay attention. I'm sure those calls would be very interesting, but
I would love to have one, but I can't imagine many of them would pay any attention to anything.
Yeah. Okay. So before COVID-19 came and has taken over our whole world, what was your normal life like? What would you do every day? What did you do for fun, activities, socially, things like that?
Sure. So typical day, especially during the week, I'd get up around, 5:30, shower, get ready, head right to school. My school's an extended day. It's a long day. So the kids are there from 7:45 till 4. So it's a long day of just, running around with the kiddos and doing some things with them. Usually after school, I was running errands of some kind because my husband doesn't get home till between 6 and 7 every night. So I was usually on, running errands, taking care of the dogs, things like that. Socially, we love to go out. We love to do, go out to eat. We're definitely foodies. So, we were definitely going to restaurants at least, once a week, just the two of us or with other friends, meeting up with friends for drinks and things, which I know life will change once the baby comes, but we're fully prepared to take him with us when we go out and do those things because we enjoy
they're
it.
Easy to carry around, that's for sure.
Yes.
And so how has your pregnancy been? Have you been feeling good? Are you, those long days must have been hard on you towards the end?
Yeah, I've been feeling really good. I haven't had any morning sickness at all, haven't had any nausea at all, which I know everyone keeps saying I'm so lucky, and I agree.
But I've definitely had people are watching this, they're all cursing you for having
I've had my fair share though. Since the very beginning of my second trimester, I've had pretty severe carpal tunnel. I have to sleep with wrist braces every night. Okay. My fingers are still numb all day, every day. It won't go away. Yeah. And it's, it can get pretty painful, wakes me up in the middle of the night. I also, at the beginning of my pregnancy, had a blood clot. So in my uterus, which was very scary. Because they just kept saying, it could be fine, it could go away on its own, it could stay throughout your entire pregnancy, or it could cause a miscarriage. And every time I would go and they would do an ultrasound, they would say, okay, so, it hasn't changed, so that's good. But luckily that it was absorbed in my body, so it's gone and it's not, a risk anymore, which is definitely a good feeling. But I spent, almost 3 months of my pregnancy just in this sort of limbo of not knowing what was
Yeah.
going to happen with it. Is it going to be okay? Is it not going
Right.
to be okay? So that was a little scary for a while. But, you know, I mean, I've been feeling good besides that. I haven't had, you know, any, you know, much pain or anything like that. So I'm definitely thankful for that.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. I'm glad you're through the scary stuff and now you can focus on all the happy things.
Definitely. Definitely.
And we have those recommendations and social distancing and all that stuff. What, you know, how's your life changed? Like, how is that affecting you personally and professionally?
I think like everyone else, you know, I mean, I'm stuck in the house, especially, you know, being pregnant, you know, I know that I'm not worried about just me anymore. And, you know, I'm someone who, even as a teacher, you know, I know a lot of teachers that are, you know, hand sanitizer all day and sanitizing everything. And I'm not saying that I'm not a clean person. I'm definitely, but I'm also one of those people who welcomes the germs. Like I don't mind when the kids go outside and play in the dirt and get dirty. And, you know, if a kid in my class picks something up off the floor and eats it, I'm not going to throw a fit. I'm going to say, please don't do that. That's gross. But, you know, when it comes to germs and those kinds of things, I fully believe that, you know, we should all get those germs and build up our immune systems. And I think this has really changed that for me, and just sort of how I'm behaving. And I mean this by my pregnancy. I mean, even when this first started, you know, it's just thinking of not just me and thinking of the baby and thinking of, you know, things that can affect him, and, you know, trying to be more cautious and trying to be safer. And so, you know, my husband, of course, doesn't want me leaving the house at all. So, you know, I've tried to go out as little as possible. And obviously, you know, personally, like you mentioned, my grandfather passed away this past weekend. He was down in South Carolina with my grandmother for a few months, and they traveled back. They live in Salisbury, Mass. And so he called his doctor, because it was sort of as this was all, you know, getting to America and kind of starting here. And he called his doctor, and his doctor said, you know, if you need to come back here, which he did, I mean, he needed to come back home. And he said, put a mask and gloves on, get on a plane, try your best, you know, to avoid people, and just get back here as soon as you can. So he got home, and a couple days after he got home, he started having some symptoms. So he went to the hospital and they tested him. And of course it took almost a week to get his test results in. So by then they had already sent him back home. They were treating him for pneumonia. They told him to go home and to quarantine. So he and my grandmother were at home when he got the positive results. And we were actually really lucky. My cousin and her husband are both nurse practitioners, and they live right down the street from my grandparents. So they were going in full gear every day, checking on him, checking his breathing, checking, you know, to checking his temperature, all those things. And he was doing really well for a few days, and then he wasn't. And they called the ambulance, took him to the hospital, and he was on oxygen for a day or two. And then the oxygen wasn't enough, and they would have needed to put him on a ventilator. And as a 90-year-old who, he also had leukemia, he had been very healthy before that. He wasn't getting, you know, radiation or any of those things. He was actually taking a chemo like medication, like a pill. But he had been, you know, relatively healthy for a 90-year-old man before this. And so once it came to them needing to put him on a ventilator, the doctors basically told my family, you know, once he goes on, he's not coming off. So, you know, if it was my father, if it was my grandfather, I probably wouldn't do it, because once he goes on, there's no sort of coming back from that. So they made the decision not to put him on the ventilator, and then he passed away a day or so later. So personally, it's been hard not being able to grieve with my family. We had a small like a gathering at the cemetery, but we all had to stay in our cars. My dad and his brothers and sisters and their spouses and my grandmother were the only ones allowed out of the cars. You know, masks, gloves, everything, because they
Mhm.
said his body is still contaminated. So,
Okay.
you know, they needed to sort of stay away. And, you know, the grandchildren he had, you know, my grandfather had 12 grandchildren. He had 4 great grandchildren. So we all just had to sit in our cars and sort of watch. And it was a short, you know, 10-minute, the priest was there and said a prayer, and that was it. And it's just been really hard. We're a really close family. So to
Yeah.
not be able to hug and to
Yeah.
grieve together has been probably the hardest part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I would think so, because being able to come together as a family and you know, lean on each other is something that helps you get through grief. And so because of COVID-19 and having to keep your distance, you know, it's preventing you from being able to even, you know, take part in your typical, you know, ceremonies and grieving processes and all those things. So just another way that COVID-19 is impacting us in a negative way that I think people aren't thinking about. I know I've heard of a lot of people who have lost someone and they can't, you know, have the funeral. They can't really go forward and have the services that they want to and respect them in the way that they would if it was, you know, a different world right now. So again, I'm so sorry for your loss. You know, and on top of that, I'm sure it's affecting you personally because, you know, of your pregnancy.
yeah, yeah,
And, you know,
it's been really hard because you know, I there are things that, you know, I was talking about on a normal day I would do, you know, if especially where, so my husband is actually still working. His company, they have their manufacturing company and they have defense contracts. So he actually received
mhm,
a letter saying that they could not close because they need to, you know, keep up with those defense contracts that they have. And so that has been, you know, hard because, you know, I'm home all day, and if we need toilet paper or we need something at the grocery store, you know, he's like, I'll go on my way home. I'm already out. Please don't leave the house. And so it's just a change of like, I can't even go and get a coffee because I'm terrified that the person handing it to me through the window
right,
is going to have something on their hands from the last person that ordered something. And
right,
it's,
yeah,
so that's been hard.
yeah, yeah. And then can you talk a little bit about the hospital rules that are in place for when you go to deliver, how that might look different for someone now versus when COVID-19 wasn't an issue?
Sure. So one of the biggest things I know, that the biggest changes that's been made in regards to, you know, labor and delivery is that as of right now, from what I'm hearing, I know some hospitals in New York had started the policy that no visitors were allowed in the room. However, I did hear that the governor, you know, overturned that and basically said that everyone was allowed to have one person, and that seems to
Mhm.
be the common theme. I mean, things are changing daily. I've been, you know, in close contact with my OB office and with the hospital,
Mhm.
just trying to find out, you know, the most up to date information. But it seems like most hospitals now are saying that one person is allowed to be with you while you are at the hospital, and it needs to be that same person. So like, I couldn't have my husband come in for the delivery and then he leaves and my mother comes in to visit later. It has to be the same person that stays with you through the whole thing. So I'm definitely glad that, you know, they're not allowing no one, because I
Right,
can't imagine giving birth for the first time by myself
right,
without my husband there.
yeah,
So I'm definitely thankful that they're allowing that, but it certainly, you know, it changes the whole dynamic. You know, my sister,
mhm,
she had my nephew. We were all there the next day. You know, my parents, my other sister and I, my husband. We basically had like, you know, a mini party in the room, just celebrating my nephew and family. And you know,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure my brother-in-law snuck a beer in there so that we could all toast
yeah,
him. You know, it's just a different thing, and
yeah,
you know, it's gonna certainly be a different experience than
yeah,
has happened in the past.
yeah, yeah. And so I think, you know, that goes into my next question of like, what are your biggest worries and stressors right now?
Honestly, one of my biggest is really the fact that my husband is still working. Every day
Mhm.
when he comes home, I just think about how many people he's come into contact with. I've had a few people say, maybe if he's working, maybe he shouldn't be staying at your house. Maybe he should be somewhere else. And I said, honestly, as terrified as I am of contracting COVID, I'm I would be more terrified if I were here by myself.
Right,
I don't know that I could do that. So,
right.
when he comes in, it's change your clothes, wash your hands, as soon as he comes in every day,
Yeah.
just to try and keep us both as safe
Minimize.
as possible. Yeah. I mean, he's for the most part not doing, what he would typically do either because of that. So,
Mhm.
he's going right to his office. He's working. He's, and I mean, he, as the owner of the company, he is in charge of sending people home, and every day he comes home and says, someone told me they weren't feeling well, I told them don't come in, stay home for
Mhm.
2 weeks, and because he's in charge of those things, and he's like, as much as we need these people here doing their jobs, we need
Mhm.
them to stay home if they're sick. So
Yeah.
he's but that's probably one of my biggest worries right now, because I don't know what could be coming home. Another thing is, I had to cancel my baby shower, which was,
Mhm.
at the end of March. And so I'm very thankful people have been, sending me gifts, whether
Mhm.
directly from, my registry, or a few people have come and dropped them off on my porch and waved to me through the
Mhm.
window. And
Yeah.
that's been really nice. But then I feel like a crazy person because I go outside and I spray the whole thing down with Lysol, or I wipe it down with a Lysol wipe, and then I
Mhm.
open it and then I wipe it again. And
Mhm.
just because you don't know. And
Yeah.
it's my husband sometimes thinks I'm a wacko because I'll do it twice, and he's like, I think it's fine, and I'm like, no, we're not sure, we need to be sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm going out there with my disinfectant under each arm before I even bring it in the house. So
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I have a porch with something covering it with all the rain we've been having. But
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I have a package that got delivered 2 days ago on the front porch because they say if you just kind of let it sit
yeah,
for it, it dies after a few days, and I'll still wipe it when it comes in. But for me, it's not a risk that I'm willing to take, and it's a simple thing to wipe it down with a cleaning wipe or with a rag. And so I'm gonna take the precautions that I can to keep my family and myself safe. So I don't think you're crazy. I'm with you on that one. I think
thank you.
we can't control everything, but we can control some things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's I'm glad people are pulling through for you and showing up for you in the ways that they can right now. But again, it kind of is sad that you didn't get that baby shower, and maybe after all this is over, you can have a baby shower just to get everyone together and celebrate the
Yeah,
good
I just
times.
keep
And I think,
telling everyone because everyone keeps asking, and I said, well, this will be so much better now because we can wait and do something over the summer when he's here, and you can all
yeah.
meet him, and it's
Mhm.
fine. And I mean, it was the day of the shower. I had a tough day. I was a little upset, but I know that it is what it is, and it's
Yeah.
we can't all get together right now, and that's okay. And he's coming either way, so he'll
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't change the big picture, but it's just like when we were talking earlier, when we all are growing up and getting into our lives, and we kind of picture the way things are going to go, right? Like you're going to have this baby shower and have your family like cover you in love and give you these great things, and it's a memory. And then when you go to the hospital, you have people visiting, and so when you don't have things the way that you would picture them, it's kind of a loss, and it's okay to have time to grieve that, right? And I know in the other interviews we've talked a lot about how it's so important for people to not pretend those feelings aren't there, because then they just build and manifest in different ways, and they can come out in really unhealthy um, behaviors or different other things. And so we want to make sure that if you're feeling sad, like you said, like you maybe you just took that day to be sad
Yeah.
on the day of your shower, and you let yourself have those feelings, and then eventually you moved on. But I think for sometimes people have this reflex where they just have to act tough and strong all the time, and that's not healthy either, right? Because we're all going through something pretty traumatic right now. And it's important to kind of, we don't want to dwell in it and get sucked into this, vortex of doom, but we also need to process our feelings so that we're not like snapping at everyone one day and like, why am I so grumpy? And it's maybe we didn't process the feelings we had going on before that. And so I'm sure you are doing a great job of that because you're an educator and you're good with people and I think you know yourself really well, and I'm sure you're doing that, but I'm sure you're letting yourself have your feelings too, which is healthy.
My husband wishes I had less of them, but but I'm definitely, there have been days where I've literally just looked at him and said, I'm just feeling really sad. Like I've always been really transparent about, how I'm feeling and sometimes I'll just look at him and say, I don't know what it is. I can't tell you the reason because, he's a fixer. He wants to fix it. If I'm feeling sad, he wants to help. What can I do to fix it? What can I do to help you? And sometimes I just have to tell him, I'm just feeling really upset or sad about, everything that's going on. There's really nothing you can say or do. Like, let's just continue with our day. But like, if you notice that I'm, grumpy or whatever, like this is why, and it's not you, I'm not mad at you. You didn't do anything, but like, I'm just, trying to be transparent. And I call my mom at least a couple times a day, my best friend, so it's because everybody's going through the things they're going through. And, my best friend is, she's a mother of 3. She works at her family owns a convenience store, sub shop, cigar shop. Her father tested positive. So he's been home in quarantine with her mother, and actually her sister lives there as well. So she's running the store by herself, and her daughter is immunocompromised. So her daughter is staying with her ex-husband right now, and she hasn't seen her kids in weeks. So she's been, having chats with them, FaceTime with them, but hasn't physically seen her 3 children in weeks. And so the 2 of us sometimes will just talk on the phone for, an hour and just sort of vent about like how awful this all is and how, sad it is and how sad we are. And then we're like, wow, I feel so much better. Like, let's go on with the day.
Yeah. No, that's good. I hope everybody has someone to call. Yeah. I hope everybody has that person that they can call where they can just say, I just need to vent. I just need to cry. I just need to, talk this through because I need to have a 10-minute pity party and then I'll move on. But, it's so important to get that off your chest so that you can breathe better and you can kind of like get on with your normal life. But I'm glad that you have someone that you can relate to. And I'm sorry for what she's going through, because I can't imagine the stress that she's feeling right now, having all of that on her shoulders, worrying about her daughter, worrying about her father, worrying about her own health, being out there running the store for the family business. So that's a tremendous amount of stress.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what can you do for yourself, Ashley? One of the questions I've been asking is, you're under a tremendous amount of stress. You must be feeling overwhelmed at times. What are you doing or what can you do that helps you kind of get some of it off of your shoulders and kind of feel like a little relief from the stress, even if it doesn't go away completely, but just for your own self-care? What are you doing these days to kind of help with that?
I think I've taken more baths than I've ever taken in my entire life. I think I definitely, I've read a few books. My grandparents are really into puzzles, and they always have a puzzle set up on their table. So I actually, a couple weeks ago, bought a couple of puzzles, and I'm working on a very challenging one right now. So it's just, I'm finding that I sort of, I'm trying not to just binge watch shows because like it's so easy to do. So I'm trying really hard to sort of space out, what I'm doing to sort of distract myself from everything that's going on. But those are definitely a few. And then I think I've just been spending a lot of time in the nursery, and that's really helped. I've gotten so many, like I said, gifts and things from people that I'm spending a lot of time just washing clothes and, organizing where it's going in the nursery and sort of just nesting, getting ready for him to get here. And I think that's really helped me to sort of look more at the positive because, if I were in school all day, every day, I wouldn't have the time to be doing some of these things that I'm doing,
Right.
cleaning out the linen closet in the spare bathroom so that there's room for baby things. Those are things that I probably wouldn't have had the time to do, that I'm thankful now that I'm able to sort of as best I can prepare for him. And I think that's really helped me, because it's making me feel like I'm not just sitting at home. I'm not focusing on the negative of this. I'm focusing on, the positive of him coming and being here and getting everything as ready as we can. And that's really helped.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure being in there is just kind of filling you up with excitement and hope, and just can't wait to see what he looks like, and, that new baby smell and all those exciting things. So I'm so excited for you for that. I can't wait to see him and meet him. What would you like to say to anyone watching regarding social distancing and isolating and keeping yourself apart? I think there are still people out there who, aren't social distancing and saying that, like, they have their right, and they have their own freedom to do what they want, and it's a recommendation, but they don't really have to. Like, if they want to have friends over, they will, or, things like that. So what advice or message, would you like to give people listening right now?
I mean, I think just in this interview that we've had, I've mentioned, what happened with my grandfather. I've mentioned my best friend who, can't see her children. Like, these are just a few examples of the people that, this is affecting. And I think, just because people may not have someone that is directly being affected by this, it doesn't mean that they don't, that it's not affecting everyone, and that it's not, I understand, because my husband is definitely one of those people who at first was like, oh, it's the flu, it's no big deal. And, like I said, if I weren't pregnant, I might have started with that same opinion, because I'm not a worrier. I'm not someone who gets overly worried about things. Even as a teacher, I don't get the flu shot typically. I obviously did this year because I'm pregnant, but I'm not someone who worries about sickness and things like that. Sure. So were I not pregnant, I might have started this whole thing with that same, sort of opinion. But I just feel like with everything that we're seeing, and I'm trying to avoid the news as much as possible because it's terrifying. But I think anyone at this point who's not taking this seriously is kidding themselves, because it's affecting everyone. I've been seeing a lot of quotes and memes and different things, and some are hilarious and some are serious. And, one of the ones that I saw that I thought was, really, really impactful was, if it was young people that this was affecting, our grandparents and our parents would never leave the house, because they would do everything possible to keep us safe. Right. Shouldn't we be doing the same for them? Because this is, that's who it's most affecting. I mean, if my grandfather hadn't contracted this, like I said, even though he's 90 years old, he was a very healthy 90-year-old. I mean, even, he was going through, some pretty minor cancer treatments. He's had it for over a year, and he's been really healthy and been able to travel and do things. And, it within a week or two, it killed him. And it's not something that we can just take lightly. It's something that is affecting real people in a big way. And the longer it takes people to take it seriously, the longer we're going to be in quarantine, and the longer we're going to, not have restaurants to go to and jobs to go to. And, all the people who have lost their jobs over this and can't afford to pay their rent because they have no income. I mean, it's just getting worse and worse because these people are not taking it seriously. So I mean, at this point, I can't imagine how someone could not take this completely, as seriously as possible. So. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I love, the quote that you mentioned about how, the older generation would be locking down, doing whatever they needed to slow it down to save the younger generation. And so we should be doing the same for them. Just because they're old, just because they're 90 doesn't mean that they're expendable or that they don't count. We should be keeping them as safe as we would an infant, or keeping them as safe as we would a 19-year-old. So, I have grandparents that are in their 90s and they're around, and it's terrifying to think about, because their bodies just won't be able to fight it or handle it. And so you just pray that they're in isolation and that no one comes to them or brings it to them unnecessarily. But I'm hoping that your message and all the messages in the interviews earlier this week will, help some people who might still be dragging their feet, like not wanting to give up seeing their friends or going to visit people. And it does suck. It totally sucks, right? Like, you're a social person. I'm a social person. We love, getting together with people, but, for this short time, we have to stay focused on why we're doing it and who we're going to save in the process.
And I think, people are finding ways to still be social. I mean, I've probably seen more of some of my friends in the last few weeks than I had previously, because we're planning, Zoom calls and game nights and different things, tonight I have a game night with a bunch of my college friends, and we're going to do, a Zoom chat and play some online games. And, it's trying to make the best of it and finding those ways to still be social, especially like you said, for people like us who are very social and want to go out and see our friends and do things. So
yeah, and even my kids are doing it. My boys have a card night tonight with all of their 10-year-old friends.
That's awesome.
Locked into the computer and playing Crazy Eights, getting crazy on a Friday night.
That's so cute. I love that.
So, you have to be creative and you have to try to look for outlets to fill that void, but just keeping in mind this is short term, right? Short term. And the better we do it now, the shorter it will be. So I think it's important that everyone gets on board and follows the recommendations. Before we end, I love to end all of these sessions talking about hope, right? Because that's what gets me through, is thinking of the things that we can do once this is over, and positive anticipation of what our lives will look like eventually when we're back to kind of normal. But I'm hoping to bring some of the lessons that we've learned with us. I know when my husband went grocery shopping early this morning and he sent me a picture of the cart, and deep down in the middle, I saw like a thing of cleaning wipes. They're like with the Market Basket brand, like cleaning wipes. And I felt such joy just from seeing the cleaning wipes. Because we were almost out.
Yeah.
So it's like, never before would I have been excited about cleaning wipes.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, I want to keep this appreciation, maybe not always for cleaning wipes, but just thankful for all the things that we have, like in not taking things for granted as easily as I did before, something I'm hoping for. But what's something that you're hoping for that might be different or changed when this is all over and done, that you would like to see?
For me, I think it's, trying to, especially because, when this is all over and done with, the baby will be here. And it's really important to me that I, even though I'm very close with my family now, I want to spend more time with my extended family too. And I want them to really, get to know the baby and get to spend, as much time with him as possible, because, especially with what happened with my grandfather, like I'm devastated that he will never meet my son. And that is, has been one of the hardest things for me, I think, is that knowing that he'll never get to meet my grandfather. So I think for me, the hope is that, I'm able to share him with the rest of my family as much as possible, and that they, can watch him grow and spend time with him and be with him, because, we don't know what could happen now. I mean, nobody expected this. So this is definitely, has put that into perspective for sure. And, I really look forward to just, when this is all done, being able to share my son with my family and with my friends. And, I keep saying, not being able to have a shower was awful, but it's going to be so great when I get to share him with everyone, and we get to have a big backyard barbecue, and they can all see him, hold him, and be with him. And those are the things that are making me so hopeful, is that, I have all this time and his whole life to have him be with family and friends and everyone, and that's really really helped.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Not taking things for granted and living each day to the fullest, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. I know it was a hard week and you still, had the strength to come on and share with us. So I appreciate it, because I'm sure so many moms are going to connect with what you said and appreciate, you being brave enough to tell your story so that they're like feeling connected and feeling that they're not alone and that there's community out there. So on behalf of everyone watching or who might benefit, thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share and sort of ramble a little bit. It's
No
all this emotions and things going on right now. It's really actually been helpful to talk about a lot of it and to share. So thank you.
Yeah, and best of luck.
Thank
Right,
you.
when he comes, when he makes his appearance. I can't wait to see, but I wish you a very quick and easy delivery.
Thank
And then
you.
lots of snuggles with a beautiful new baby, and you have that new baby smell for a long time, so I'm jealous for that.
Oh, I can't wait.
So thank you so much. I hope
Thank
you enjoy
you.
your day, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, you too.